Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. How does the Warcraft Rumble AI work, and does the Warcraft Rumble AI cheat? These are some questions that keep coming up again and again, and I have delved deep into the game files, and in this video I'm going to showcase you everything that I have found about the functionality of the Rumble AI. First of all, sad news for everyone who thinks the AI can play anything at any time. The Rumble AI in general follows the same rules as players. The AI has a predefined deck. It draws minis from that deck. It can only play minis that it has in its hand. It gains gold, and it uses that gold to play minis. And whenever it plays a mini, it goes to the bottom of the deck, just like it works with the players. So all the general rules are the exact same for the AI and for the players. This includes the rule sets for the opening hands, which cause a lot of confusion, because there are two different rule sets for opening hands depending on what kind of map you're playing. Either the opening hands are reshuffled every time a match begins. This happens in dungeons, in raids, in sieges, in PvP. Or the hands are going to stay the same until the player wins a fight. And this happens in all the campaign missions, including Onyxia. So hands stay the same. What does that mean? It means that the hands are based on the army slots. So your top left army slot, for example, if that's in your opening hand, then whatever is in your top left army slot is always going to be in your opening hand until you win. And players can actually use this to manipulate their opening hands a little bit by changing mini positions around. This does not depend on your leader at all, and you cannot do anything to change the AI's hand. The AI's hand is going to remain the same until you win the fight. There is, however, some flexibility in the way the rules are applied to the AI. For example, Blizzard can adjust their starting gold, but actually most of the time they start with less gold than the player. Blizzard can adjust their hand size, but typically this hand size is either the same as player for minis, or it can also be smaller. None of the AIs actually have a larger starting hand, none that I can recall anyway. Then the deck size. Deck size does vary quite a bit. There's actually one fight in the entire game that I know of that can play any mini at any time, and that's Heroic Bolvar, because Heroic Bolvar has a deck of 4 minis, and it has a hand size of 4 minis. So every single mini is always in Bolvar's hand, and it can just keep playing the same mini over and over again. But no other encounter does that. There are some encounters that there's a hand size of 4 and 5 minis, so only needs to play one in between and then it can replay the other mini again. So that does happen, but for the most part the deck size and hand size are similar to what players have. Then gold income. Blizzard can adjust gold income by map and by game mode, and gold income is actually also usually lower than it is for the players. But AI does get some compensation from various map mechanics, because many maps include things like timed spawns or phases that cause something to happen, and then the fight changes in some way, and the AI doesn't have to play that from hand. You can also try to manipulate the AI's decision making. Typically this is like, let's say, Heroic Devilsaur Queen. Remember how you sent a Chimera up one lane and everything else up the other lane? Or in a couple of fights actually you can also send a lone Plague Farmer up one lane and everything else up the other. So these are examples of how you're trying to manipulate AI's decision making. But manipulating it is not super straightforward in all cases, because the AI takes into account a lot of things. For example, available gold. By default, AI actually tries to save up to 6 gold and then make some plays, so that it has some flexibility. But it doesn't always have to do that, and sometimes it can also save longer. Then it takes into account whatever threats there are, also on a per lane basis, so where it should focus. It takes into account towers, the damage on towers, the barracks, the boss, the damage on the barracks and boss, gold mines, and the amount of gold available in those gold mines. Mini level differences. It also realizes, okay, you're playing with underleveled minis, so I can go in more aggressively, or you're playing with overleveled minis and I'm in trouble. Synergies, including available synergies in its hand. So depending on the order of AI's hand, sometimes it has cards that work well together and then it wants to play those together. Mini positions, possibility to support minis that are on the board. Counters, it tries to play minis that are strong against what you're playing, so it tries to counter what you're doing. And dangers, so it tries to avoid playing stuff that gets easily killed by what you have on the board. Attack and defense, it can be more aggressive or more defense focused. It also realizes what high ground and low ground are, so it tries to play ranged minis to high ground when possible so that they would be able to shoot down as well. And finally, there is also some fuzziness between the top options, so there's no fully deterministic outcomes. If there are multiple options the AI can do and they are pretty close in the evaluation, then it will randomly pick one. All the minis in the game have various tags that are trying to help the AI understand what that mini is, and also all the maps in the game have various spots tagged so that the AI realizes, okay, this is high ground, that's low ground, this is where I'm supposed to go. And the counter pairs, where the AI is trying to play something to counter what you have on the board. This is a list of all the counter pairs that AI takes into consideration. So flying counters melee. So if there is a melee mini on the board, the AI will prioritize playing a flying mini to counter that. Melee counters range, range counters flying, elemental counters armored, flying counters bombard, resistant counters elemental, elemental counters vulnerable. This is all pretty straightforward stuff, really. Note that these are not the traits on the minis, these are separate AI tags that each mini has that are not shown to the player. Finally, some of the spells are a little bit complex for the AI to understand, so it has some ground rules on how to use them. It has those for its own spells like Smoke Bomb, but that doesn't really matter much because you can't affect that very much. But it also has it for damage spells, so for these 3 damage spells in particular. For Chain Lightning, the AI will not play Chain Lightning unless there are at least 2 minis close together and they're worth at least 6 gold. With Blizzard, there has to be at least 3 minis close together and they have to be worth at least 7 gold. And perhaps most importantly, for the Living Bomb, there has to be at least 4 minis close together and they have to be worth at least 9 gold. So if you have like Rend and 2 Chimeras, that's 3 minis, they're not going to get Living Bombed. But if you have Rend, Chimera and Harpies, boom, they're going to get Living Bombed real quick. So there's some ways that you can use this information at least to try to avoid living bombs, but obviously because it doesn't take many minis to make them a viable living bomb target, then you're still a little bit limited in how you can try to avoid that. So overall, the Rumble AI plays the game in much similar way as a player does, but there are some aspects of its decision making, what it considers a threat, what it considers the biggest threat, what it considers a counter, what special rules there are for some spells that you can try to use in order to gain a little bit of an edge over it. But as for that cheating, well, unfortunately, typically, apart from the map mechanics, which can give the AI some time response and such, the AI typically plays with fewer resources than the player does, and it doesn't have infinite resources, and it has to respect the rules. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.